my name is Attorney Jack Morrison. I help people who have financial distress, meaning that they owe credit cards, they have medical bills, personal loans that they can't afford to pay anymore, and I help them resolve that debt. And over the course of my career, I see a lot of people now that are older, 65 years and older, that find themselves in that type of situation. Now, it could be whether it's they've lost a job, or it's a medical situation, they've got a divorce, but their income has changed to the amount that whatever they normally could pay just to survive, they just about have enough money for that, and they don't have that extra money to pay back all the other people that they owe money to over the course of time. And again, if you're 65 years and older, that retirement is kind of, a nice pie in the sky that you're looking forward to. And for most people that are in that type of situation, you owe the money, you're thinking, there's no way I'm going to wind up having to retire, that I'm going to be working the rest of my life to pay off the debt that I have. Nobody wants to be in that situation. If what I just explained describes you, then yeah, this video is for you. So we've entitled this video, how we can help you avoid filing bankruptcy when you're in debt. Now, it's not that I'm saying that bankruptcy is a bad thing. I mean, it's not, but I think from my perspective, it's more of it just has a negative connotation, meaning that people's perception of bankruptcy is that it's a penniless, homeless, tattered clothes, scrounging for food type of individual. And it's au contraire. I mean, it is not that from the people that I have experienced that have unfortunately had to file. It's the opposite. So they have a home, they have a car, they have income. Unfortunately, the income and the assets that they have is not sufficient to maintain their current lifestyle and have to then pay back all the other debt that they owe. That's the problem, is that the debt that they owe, they just can't maintain their lifestyle and then continue to pay that back. Bankruptcy, or I should say debt, doesn't discriminate. You could be a high school graduate, not even a high school education. You could have a college education. It still would be people who have had college educations have filed. It doesn't matter your ethnicity. It doesn't matter where you're living. It's an unfortunate situation that it just doesn't discriminate. That they say life has happened when you made other plans, and the other plans could be is that you found yourself in a financial difficulties. And then also, lastly, I got to congratulate you. I mean, owing money is a difficult situation to even talk to anybody about, because you're embarrassed. You're scared. You don't want anybody to know that you're having financial difficulties, and it's unnerving. And then to explain to a particular stranger that I'm experiencing that is really kind of off the charts. So for you to be looking for this type of information to see what you can do to resolve it, again, I applaud you, because it's not an easy thing to do. So when you're having money problems, what's the first thing you're going to do? You got to identify how big that picture is. So you got to figure out how much money you owe. So that means it's the credit card debt, it's the medical bills. I mean, you can put in student loans, because that is a debt. It never becomes dischargeable in bankruptcy, but at least you'll know what that is, and put all that together. So for most people, that's easy, because they know that they have 10 credit cards and this is all the debt that they have. For some people, they've had such a problem with the debt that it's kind of like it's a negative connotation, and they just want to put everything aside, and they don't want to deal with it. So they don't keep track of what all the debt is that they owe. So I have to then figure out, okay, if you have no idea, how are we going to determine the amount that you owe? You'd have to contact the credit bureaus. So there's 3 credit bureaus, and either that information is going to be below here or at the end of this video. We'll give you a link of where to go, or you can just Google, how do I get credit reports? But the credit reports will give you information to anybody that reports that. So the most thing that I don't see would be any type of medical bills. So if you owe medical bills, you're going to have to contact that institution and say, hey, I'm trying to resolve what I owe you. Can you send me a statement as to how much I owe? So at least you get who they are, and you get a mailing address and a rough amount of who they are. So once you get that amount or the amount that you owe, that's the first step. The next step that you're going to be doing is determine your income. So it's all the money that you receive, and it's not, if you're making $20 an hour times 40 hours, the $800, it's really, after tax and everything are all taken out, it's that money that comes to you if you're working. I mean, if you're not working, you're getting Social Security, then yeah, it's the money that's deposited in your account every single month. So that number, you're going to then write that down, and that's your monthly income, and put it on a monthly basis, because sometimes, Social Security would come monthly, and depending upon how you're working, that's going to determine your payment plan. But if you can calculate everything, and that income that you have is on a monthly basis, so that's the second step. Now you have the third step, is to identify all those essential expenses that you have. So it's the rent, or if you have a house, it's a mortgage. It's the food that you spend. It's if you have a car with the car loan, it's the car loan. Then it's clothing, it's medical, it's transportation. If you're paying insurance and that. So there's all these other expenses that you have to pay every month, and it's essential. So come up with a number for that. So you've done so far, you put an amount of money of how much you pay or how much you determined all your debt was. Then you got another number that's saying how much income you have, and you just did another calculation to figure out what your monthly expenses are. So if you take whatever your monthly income and subtract out your monthly expenses, if it's no money that's left paying off, then yeah, the reality becomes is that you're not going to be able to pay that debt. Now, I don't want to insult you, because obviously you would realize that. But until you go through the exercise, a lot of people, I think I can move here, and I can probably take money from here, and if I cut back on here, and I think I'm able to pay it. But the numbers don't lie. You're in a situation where you know what the debt is, and you know what your income is, and the necessary expenses. And if the income doesn't cover that, then yeah, it's a kind of a serious talk you've got to have with yourself to say that, yeah, I might not be in a situation to pay this. So then what happens? If your income is limited, then you will not be forced to pay back that debt to the people that you owe money to. So, I mean, that might be a little leap, and it's requires a little bit more of explanation, which I'll get into, and it's going to be a long explanation. But if you owe money to people, creditors, then they have a right to collect that debt. So what's going to happen is the credit card company is going to call the collection agency, where's my money, send you letters, make phone calls. If you don't respond, then the credit card company in turn hires a lawyer, sends a letter and saying you owe X credit card, X amount of money. You have 30 days to pay, otherwise we'll use any reasonable legally means in order to obtain those funds, which means they'll take you to court. And when they take you to court, most people don't know what to do. They haven't been sued and brought to court, but there's a procedure that you've got to go through, and if you don't do it, they automatically win. So once they get a judgment, which means that they won, you owe them the money, a judgment is good for 20 years. They could in turn, they could attach property, meaning if you have a house, they could put a lien on it. They could seize assets, they can grab your car, they could garnish wages if you're working. So, and like I said, if it's good for 20 years, that's a method that the creditors could go through in order to collect that debt. I'm sure most people never want to experience any of that. So with this, the opportunity that no one would force you to pay that, and it really becomes to where it's, if you're an older individual and you're collecting Social Security and that's your only means of income, they look at that, and what Social Security is that you've paid money into the system over the course of the year. So it's money that you're entitled to by the U.S. government to basically survive. And I mean, nowadays, depending upon what it is, it's nominal. So if you owe money and that's your only source of income, you are classified in what they call it judgment proof, meaning that if, as I just explained, the creditor went through that whole expanse of hiring a lawyer, going to court, and getting a judgment, if you went in front of a judge, you know, and you explain all I have is my Social Security income, and these are all my necessary expenses. I don't have enough to pay off any of my other creditors. Then no judge will realistically force you to pay that debt. Now the problem becomes is that they may say, well, we're going to extend it for another 6 months, and in that 6 months, I mean, did you win the lottery? Did you inherit money? You know, something else come in that, you know, you are now getting more income that you could afford to pay back those people. But barring that, it's going to be continued every 6 months for, I mean, you might not be around for the 20 years that you'd have to wait, but it could possibly be that long. But my point is that if you have limited income and you can't afford to pay them, yes, you'd have to go through the humiliation of every 6 months going into court and saying, Judge, Your Honor, nothing has changed, and they're allowing that, then they're not going to force you to pay that debt. So that resolves it. And if you don't want to pay the debt, well, then there's other ways of resolving that, which I'll discuss in another video that will contain more information on that. Thank you.